There. Time to take a look now. What's grabbing headlines here in France? Florence Villeminot joins me. Violent protests are continuing in suburbs around Paris. Now, this over the alleged police rape of a 22-year-old black man identified only as a Tues earlier this month.
That's right. Now, that incident took place in the northern suburb of Aulnay-sous-Bois. Now, this is one of the banlieues, as they're called here in France. I guess you could say the suburbs, or you could say also the projects that are often around big cities. So there have been several clashes, scenes of violence between police and rioting youth in many of these banlieues, particularly around Paris. So you can see here the front page of Aujourd'hui en France, Le Parisien, talking about these banlieues, so these suburbs, these projects. How can we put out the fire? And you can see the photo here was taken on the 11th of February in Bobigny, which is a suburb in the east of Paris, so not the suburb where the incident took place.
Okay, well, the incident did take place on February the 2nd, almost 2 weeks ago. The unrest, though, is mainly confined to around the Paris area.
That's right. In fact, if we take a look inside Aujourd'hui en France, Le Parisien, there's a map which shows just where these different incidents have taken place and exactly what happened in each incident. So you can see most of them have taken place in Paris or in the Paris region, but you can see on the smaller map of France that's in the bottom left-hand corner there have also been some incidences in the southern city of Marseille as well.
Okay, well, authorities fear this could be a kind of contagion to other banlieues, or projects, as you said, around the country.
That's right. Once again, Le Parisien is focusing on this risk of a contagion. Now, what authorities are fearing is that history could repeat itself, because you might remember in 2005, in banlieue around France, there was a lot of unrest following the deaths of two young people that were killed in another suburb, this in the north of Paris. And a lot of papers are wondering, what has changed since 2005? Doesn't seem like that much has changed. According to some critics, the banlieue are still a powder keg that could really just burst into flames across the country. That being said, in this article in Le Parisien, some sociologists say that things are a little bit different. For instance, the organization of the police has changed a lot. They have a lot more of a closer relationship with local authorities. And then even symbolically, this time it seems like things are a little bit different. For instance, the president, François Fillon, he quickly went to visit young Theo in the hospital. So it seems like even just symbolically, authorities are treating it a little bit differently.
Very true. François Fillon did go to visit Theo, but some papers are saying the government still isn't doing enough.
That's right. Particularly the Minister of the Interior had been quite silent on the issue. He only actually issued a statement yesterday condemning the violence. You can see here L'Opinion, the pro-business paper, critical, saying, look, we finally found Bruno Leroux, so the Minister of the Interior. He had been missing in action, and finally on February 13th, he commented on the violence. Now, Le Figaro, the right-wing paper, is saying, look, it's not just the socialist government, it's really all governments on the left or on the right have never really managed to fix this banlieue problem. But the thing is, billions of euros have been thrown at the problem, and yet nothing has changed. So you can see they're talking about the lost money in these city projects in the suburbs. And Le Parisien, if we go back to that paper as well, they have a very interesting editorial where they're focusing on this endemic problem in les banlieues. You can see they're talking about a big body that's sick because no one can agree on what the root cause of the problem is. You have the right that says that the problem is delinquency. You have the left that says that no, the problem is social or education. And Le Parisien says, to heal the banlieue, what's needed is a long-term coherent plan without any hidden political agenda.
That's unlikely, though, given the current context, 10 weeks before round one of the presidential elections here in France.
That's right. Le Figaro, if we go back to that paper, says that 10 weeks to go, security really is becoming one of the #1 hot-button issues in the presidential race. And analysts in this article say that all this is really playing into the hands of the far-right National Front, Marine Le Pen's party, because that party has traditionally had a very tough stance on security and immigration, and it's seen as being more credible on these issues, particularly with the working class.
Well, let's stay with French politics. François Fillon continues to be in the spotlight with the so-called Penelopegate or Penelopegate.
That's right. That scandal certainly is following him around. It followed him all the way to the island of Réunion, where he was on a visit there. You can read more about that in L'Opinion, which points out that during that trip, he admitted that he had made some mistakes, but says that he's confident about the future. Now, Libération focuses on his followers or his supporters who are a little bit less confident than him. Behind the scenes, a lot of people are wondering what in the world is going to happen to Les Républicains in the upcoming presidential election. You can see here in this article, in this quote, a lot of people think that actually the party is going straight into the wall.
He was even dancing on that trip, wasn't he? Trying to forget his worries for a second, at least. Listen, in terms of all of this is playing very much into the hands of Emmanuel Macron.
That's right. Now, the former economy minister is loved by many, also has a lot of critics, it must be said, particularly on the left. You might remember he was the economy minister for a socialist government, but many people thought he wasn't left-wing enough, including L'Humanité, the communist paper that says that, look, what he really is just a televangelist for the free market, capitalism. He's turning his back on the left. Now, the main problem is, well, a lot of people say he doesn't really have a real program, and that's what L'Humanité says. It says it's all just a bubble, essentially, and what his followers really like about him is the idea of him and not so much what he really has to say.
All right, finally, a word on Valentine's Day in Japan. It is Valentine's Day after all.
It is, but what's interesting is French papers, well, I pulled out one article in Slate, at least, that's focusing on what happens in Japan, because French people, it must be said, are quite fascinated by Japan. So how do the Japanese celebrate Valentine's Day? Well, according to Slate, it's very codified. You have to give women give chocolates, and then men have to give chocolates that are 3 times worth the amount of chocolate that the women gave them. So 3 times as many chocolates. I think it sounds like a good deal we should bring here to France.
So do I, Flo. Very, very good deal. Thank you very much for our French papers roundup there. All right, we're going to take a very short break. We'll be back, though, on the other side. You're watching France 24. Stay tuned.